She wrote the songs You Couldn't Stop Singing, Monica's Before You Walk Out of My Life, In Vogue's Don't Let Go, Love, Angie Stone's Wish I Didn't Miss You, and Leona Lewis's Better in Time. Andrea Martin's words and melodies carried R&B into a new era, yet most people never even knew her name. Behind the scenes, she was the quiet force behind the hits. But Andrea's story isn't just one of hidden genius, it's also one of erasure, exploitation, and tragedy. In September 2021, she died suddenly at just 49 years old. No official cause was ever revealed. Just one Instagram post, and then silence. This is the tragic fate of Andrea Martin, the voice behind the hits, finally brought into the spotlight she always deserved. Andrea Monica Martin was born on April 14, 1972, in Brooklyn, New York. She was one of 6 children, raised in East New York, a neighborhood known equally for its raw talent and its constant struggle. Even as a child, Andrea's gift for music was undeniable. That gift earned her a place at LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, the legendary institution that shaped the likes of Nicki Minaj, Kellis, and even Al Pacino. At LaGuardia, Andrea studied voice, sharpening a natural talent that already set her apart. Determined to break into the industry, she chased every opportunity to be heard. She performed at amateur night at the Apollo, and she even sang inside the lobbies of music publishers, hoping that someone, anyone, would stop and recognize her voice. Her dream was simple yet powerful: to be a performer, a star in her own right. But in the music industry of the 1980s and 1990s, talent alone was rarely enough. Looks often mattered just as much, sometimes even more. Executives decided Andrea didn't fit the image they wanted to sell. She had the voice, the melodies, and the ambition, but to them, she didn't have the look. It was here that her destiny was quietly rewritten. Instead of being pushed toward the spotlight, she was ushered behind the curtain. Her pen, not her face, would become her most valuable tool. Like many young singers, Andrea never set out to be just a songwriter. She wanted her own name in lights. But the machine had other plans. In an industry where record executives dictated who was marketable, Andrea was pushed into songwriting camps, rooms where talented singers crafted songs that would later be handed to artists chosen to represent them. It was during this time that she signed with Rondor Music Publishing, officially cementing her role as a behind-the-scenes force. Ironically, in those rooms, Andrea discovered a new kind of power. Though her voice was sidelined, her pen became unstoppable. Soon, her words were carrying some of the biggest names in R&B. The industry may not have wanted her face in the spotlight, but it could never deny her sound. Her first major breakthrough came in 1995 with Before You Walk Out of My Life for Monica. The lyrics, born from Andrea's own heartbreak after a sudden breakup, gave Monica her second #1 hit on the Billboard R&B chart. The song's path wasn't straightforward. It was caught in a bidding war. Andrea's team originally wanted to give it to Toni Braxton, already an established star who could guarantee a smash. But Clive Davis, who had just signed Monica, made it clear. If they didn't hand the song to his new artist, he would personally ensure they never worked in the industry again. Clive Davis had just signed Monica when Andrea's Before You Walk Out of My Life landed on his radar. According to insiders, Davis wasn't leaving anything to chance. He reportedly threatened Andrea's team that if they didn't hand the track to his newest star, he would personally make sure they never worked in the music industry again. Faced with the immense power Davis wielded, the choice was clear. The song went to Monica, and the gamble paid off. The single shot straight to #1 on the Billboard R&B chart, giving Monica her second chart-topping hit, and cementing Andrea Martin's reputation as a songwriter whose pen could create instant classics. From that point on, Andrea's catalog only grew, transforming into a body of work that defined an entire era. She delivered on Vogue their unforgettable ballad, Don't Let Go, Love, a song that became one of the most powerful anthems of the 90s. She gave SWV You're the One, a track that showcased her knack for blending sharp hooks with emotional depth. For Toni Braxton, she crafted I Love Me Some Him, a sultry ballad that became a fan favorite. And for Angie Stone, she wrote The Aching Wish I Didn't Miss You, a song so raw and vulnerable that it remains one of R&B's most enduring heartbreak anthems. But Andrea's pen was not confined to R&B. She crossed genres with ease, proving her versatility. She wrote Better in Time for Leona Lewis, a soaring ballad that became an international hit. She co-wrote Blue Cantrell's Breathe, featuring Sean Paul, blending R&B with reggae fusion to create a club-ready anthem. She even had her words travel into electronic dance music with Tom Craft's Loneliness, which topped charts overseas. On several of these tracks, you can still hear Andrea's demo vocals woven into the fabric of the finished song, particularly on Wish I Didn't Miss You and Breathe. Her voice, ghost-like and uncredited, was hiding in plain sight. Beyond these hits, Andrea also contributed to artists like Fantasia, Jennifer Hudson, Paloma Faith, Melanie Fiona, and Sean Kingston. Her words traveled across genres, across oceans, across cultures. Her fingerprints were everywhere, even when her name wasn't. That was the cruelest part. Fans around the world were singing Andrea Martin songs, not realizing they were Andrea Martin songs. But behind Andrea's success was a darker truth. Her melodies, her voice, her very essence were often taken, reshaped, and released without proper credit. Like many songwriters, Andrea recorded demos, rough sketches of how a song should sound. But in her case, those demos sometimes became more than blueprints. Rumors swirled that her actual vocal takes were lifted and placed onto final records, while her name stayed buried in the background. One of the most debated examples involves the dance pop star Robin S. To this day, there's heated speculation over whether Andrea's vocals were used on Show Me Love without acknowledgement. The mystery remains unsolved, but the controversy only underscores how Andrea's genius was both essential and erased. Behind Andrea Martin's success was a lingering question that followed her for years: her possible connection to Robin S.'s house, classic Show Me Love. For decades, whispers floated through the music industry that Andrea's voice, not Robin's, might have been the one that powered one of the most recognizable dance records of the 1990s. At an industry panel in 2011, Andrea finally addressed the rumors. She explained that, in those days, she was working as a prolific demo singer. Labels and producers would call her in to shape the melody, lay down vocal arrangements, and provide a guide track for other artists. When Show Me Love came across her path, she said she crafted the melody, sang the demo, and was paid a flat $300 fee instead of receiving songwriting or vocal credit. It was supposed to be a one-time transaction. But that demo, Andrea claimed, had a life of its own. Years later, clips surfaced online of Andrea singing the opening line of Show Me Love a cappella. The similarity was undeniable. Her nasal tone, her phrasing, even the lisp in her delivery matched the record almost perfectly. Fans began to wonder, was the final vocal on the iconic track really Andrea's demo take, released without acknowledgement? Andrea herself spoke about the experience with both pain and resignation. "Heartbreak promises for $300, she said, holding up the check that was all she ever received for her work. She recalled the moment her sister called in shock. "You on the radio!" But Andrea couldn't believe it. "No, I can't be on the radio," she remembered replying. Only later did she realize her demo, or at least elements of it, might have been used. The hardest part, Andrea explained, was that there was no witness. In the chaos of the studio, deals were verbal, papers weren't always signed, and a young songwriter rarely had the power to challenge producers or labels. You wake up, it's a hit. You don't realize that you wrote a little bit of it. You don't have anybody that came in that was a witness. And that's when you go wrong. You learn, and you learn from your mistake. Andrea recalled demoing a song years earlier, only for her sister to call her 2 years later saying, "You on the radio." By then, the record was already out, climbing charts, and there was little she could do. "People that know my voice," Andrea insisted, "know who did it." She even sang the line live to prove her claim, adding with a weary smile that she had been battling a cold during the demo session. "I had a nasal cold, and I'm just like, heartbreak promises," she sang. She remembered the producers asking her for a big note, and she gave it effortlessly. That soaring power note, she claimed, was hers. But when asked if she became rich from the song, her answer was devastatingly simple. No. She paused, then added words that captured her life in the industry. "This is my voice. And I want to be heard." Robin S. herself has never shied away from admitting that "Show Me Love" was not a song she initially connected with. In interviews, she confessed that when producers first brought her the track, she felt it was too fast, too wordy, and simply didn't suit her natural rhythm. "When I heard 'Show Me Love,' I was like, I don't think I can do this. My mouth is not going to go that fast. I can't remember those words. There's too many words." It wasn't an easy fit for me to just go into the studio and record. It was a challenge, she explained years later. By that point, Andrea Martin had already laid down the demo version. Her voice carried the song with ease, nailing every phrase and even delivering the soaring power note that producers specifically asked her to hit, something Andrea could do effortlessly. It was this note, in particular, that would become central to the decades-long debate. When Robin was asked about it later, she offered an explanation that only deepened the controversy. She claimed that when she went to record the final version, she was battling the flu. "The day before, I started feeling ill. I got really sick, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Half lost my voice. It was half there, half not. That morning when we got up to start working, I was like, I'm not sure I can do this, but I'll try. And so the note that everyone hears, the singing everyone hears, is me singing with the flu." That detail, her saying she was half-voiced and sick, yet still able to hit Andrea's exact phrasing and tone, became a flashpoint. Both women shared strikingly similar vocal qualities, including a slight lisp, making it nearly impossible for listeners to separate Andrea's demo from Robin's final cut. And while Robin has consistently denied that Andrea's actual vocals were used, her tone when addressing the matter has often reflected discomfort. She rarely lingers on the subject, usually steering back toward her faith. In one interview, she stated firmly, "Of all, I'm not going to speak on someone who is no longer here, out of respect for her family and for her life." She was a wonderful writer. But I didn't respond to it the first time, and this is the third time. What they don't know is, I have the covering of God on me. And the more you defame, or try to discriminate, or try to talk bad about my character, the more God blesses me. In 2022, Beyoncé shook the music world when she released Break My Soul, a track that sampled the iconic house anthem Show Me Love. Almost instantly, the decades-old dispute surrounding Andrea Martin's role in the song roared back to life. Robin S. publicly expressed her gratitude toward Beyoncé, thanking her for shining a new light on the record and putting it back on center stage for a new generation. But while Robin embraced the resurgence, the renewed attention also reopened old wounds. The conversation quickly shifted from celebration to scrutiny, with fans and journalists once again debating who truly shaped the version of Show Me Love the world had come to know. That same summer, Billboard revisited the controversy. Ivan Matias, Andrea's longtime collaborator and close friend, spoke candidly about the song's creation. He insisted that Andrea had written the melody arrangement and recorded the demo, but confirmed that the final release vocal belonged to Robin S. record executive Joey Carvello, who was directly involved in licensing the remix to Atlantic Records back in the 90s, backed that account as well. Andrea, however, had long maintained her own version of events. For years, she hinted that pieces of her demo may have slipped into the final master. And because Andrea's voice bore such an uncanny resemblance to Robin's, down to their shared tonal quirks and even a faint lisp, many fans remained unconvinced by the official narrative. The debate still lingers, fueled every time the song resurfaces in pop culture. What's not in dispute, however, are the official credits. On paper, Show Me Love lists Alan George and Fred MacFarlane as its writers, with Robin S. as the performer. Andrea Martin's name appears nowhere. This absence spoke to a larger pattern in her career. Again and again, Andrea's contributions were essential, but invisible. She built melodies and lyrics that turned into cultural touchstones, yet her name was buried under songwriting teams, or omitted altogether, safe industry language that allowed record labels and producers to obscure the true architects behind the hits. The industry knew Andrea's pen could make stars out of others, but when it came time to shine a light on the genius behind the work, her name was rarely spoken aloud. She was, in many ways, a ghost in her own career, her voice, her melodies, and her creativity haunting the charts, even when the world didn't know they were hers. And this erasure wasn't only about vocals. It extended to the very idea of credit itself, how it was documented versus how it was publicly acknowledged. Take En Vogue's timeless ballad, Don't Let Go, Love. Officially, Andrea Martin is listed as one of the songwriters, alongside Ivan Matias, Marquez Etheridge, and Organized Noise. Multiple industry databases confirm her role, but insiders recall that Andrea and Ivan had actually written the song long before it landed with En Vogue. Elektra Records powerhouse executive Sylvia Rohn heard their demo and decided it was perfect for the group, catapulting it into R&B history. So while Andrea's pen was central, literally on the paperwork, her name was still overshadowed. The machine celebrated the performers and the producers, while the woman who had supplied the heart of the song was rarely credited in interviews, tributes, or retrospectives. It was a familiar theme in Andrea Martin's career. Her work defined an era, but her face and her name remained in the shadows. Tragically, the music world was shaken in late September 2021 when news broke that Andrea Martin, the acclaimed R&B singer and songwriter, had died at just 49 years old. The announcement didn't come through a press release or a major headline, but quietly, through a heartfelt message posted on her Instagram page on the night of September 28th. The statement asked for donations to assist with her memorial fund and carried with it the weight of loss felt by her loved ones. Another post soon followed, addressed to family, friends, and fans. Dear family and friends, it is with a heavy heart we inform you of the passing of our beautiful Andrea Martin, also known as Annie. Andrea will always be remembered for her passion and dedication to her family and friends. Her impact will continue to be felt and heard for a lifetime. We thank you in advance for your condolences, love, compassion, and understanding during this time. Please limit calls as we are trying to finalize arrangements at this time. Once finalized, we will be sure to post arrangements. Forever a Legend. April 14th, 1972. September 27th, 2021. The tributes that followed painted a picture of Andrea not just as a songwriter, but as a force who quietly shaped modern R&B. Her pen gave the world Monica's Before You Walk Out of My Life, Angie Stone's Wish I Didn't Miss You, and En Vogue's unforgettable anthem Don't Let Go, Love. She also worked across genres, crafting melodies for Leona Lewis, Melanie Fiona, Jennifer Hudson, and countless others. For some artists, her passing struck especially close to home. Leona Lewis shared an emotional tribute, recalling how on the very night before Andrea's death, she had been drawn to sit at her piano and sing Better in Time, the song Andrea had written for her. Last night I sat at my piano and felt drawn to sing Better in Time, Leona wrote. I played it through a number of times as it was the only song my heart felt like singing. This morning, I woke up to the heartbreaking news that Andrea Martin, who wrote this song, had passed away. I'm deeply saddened that such a light has been lost. Andrea was truly a musical force and wrote some of my favorite songs that touched the core of my soul. Thank you for sharing your music with me and the world, Angel. Thank you for giving me the gift of better in time. Rest in love. Others echoed her words, flooding social media with stories, condolences, and expressions of gratitude for a woman whose voice was heard in every lyric, even when her name was not. While Andrea had also released her own record, The Best of Me, in 1998, she was best known for making stars out of others, crafting the anthems that defined their careers. As the music community mourned, one detail added to the mystery surrounding her life. No cause of death was ever publicly revealed. There were no official explanations, no follow-ups in the press, only silence. It was a hauntingly fitting end for an artist who had given so much to music, only to remain hidden in its shadows. Andrea Martin's story is both inspiring and heartbreaking, a reminder of how someone can shape the sound of an era while never fully receiving the recognition they deserve. She gave her words, her melodies, and her soul to the industry, only to leave this world with questions still unanswered about her passing. Yet her songs continue to echo across generations, keeping her spirit alive through the very voices she once empowered. Do you think Andrea Martin was unfairly erased from the spotlight she rightfully earned? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories behind the music. See you next time.